Hey, what's up everybody? Rob Marzullo here, Ram Studio Comics. Welcome back. So today's video I'm going to be showcasing my brush set that I just released for digital painting. It's a 50 brush set right here, and it's got a little bit of everything, so this is a pretty good, well-rounded set for digital painters, and it's going to be available, or it is available on my Gumroad page. There'll be a link in the description box below. So let me go ahead and demo these for you. So starting off, I created some additional line brushes. So this is one that's I called the Real Pencil, and it's got some texture to it and some taper, so it's reacts pretty well like a traditional pencil. And then the chalk line brush is actually the chalk brush that comes with Photoshop, but I modified it to be a good line brush. So it doesn't have any texture to it, but it's got a nice thick to thin, a nice tapering. Yeah, and I use this one a lot. Good line brush is more of like an inking brush. Again, this is a digital painting set, but it's always good to have brushes like these at your disposal so that you can combine a variety of effects. Line tool is basically just one that you can click and hold shift, and this comes in really handy for geometric design, buildings, cars, things like that. Chalk painter brush, so this is back to the chalk brush. This is actually one of my favorite paint brushes, even though it's just a basic brush that comes with Photoshop, but I modified it just the way that I like, and it's a very useful brush for painting. And you can notice if I barely put any pressure, I get almost no paint. That's going to be determined on your settings of your tablet or whatever device you're using. Stipple painter brush, same thing, it's a modified Photoshop brush, but it's a really great one to have because it's one of the first ones that I started using that allows you to get like a nice hair texture. And even though this set actually has a couple more elaborate or well-designed hair brushes, this one does a pretty good job by itself. So I wanted to include that as well. Fluid Incre, just how it sounds. It's another nice ink brush. It's got a bit of a taper, so you can get these nice thick to thins. I obviously don't have my settings on my tablet the way that I like for inking. Just so you know, I actually changed my tablet settings for painting to inking to drawing. Really, inking and drawing are the same, but so I'm not going to get as good of a effect with this brush as I normally would without first changing my pressure settings. So marker tip. Marker tip has just got a little bit of taper. It's also got a good ability to go light to dark, so the transfer is set on this brush, and this is reminds me most of just like a regular Prismacolor marker or something like that. Hard round brush. This is a popular one that I talk about in a lot of my painting videos. It's very simplistic, but it will get you going for digital painting rather quickly, and it's pretty versatile. You know, a lot of people will do entire paintings just with this brush alone. So it's a good one to practice with. Very soft brush. This is a good thing to have for skin tones, for just anything that you want to have a nice smooth gradient. So it's got no taper, and it's just a very soft brush. And that's whenever you run into a problem area of your painting, you can't get it to blend well. This is a go-to brush for that. You can do all your blending with that. Square painter. Seems pretty boring, but it's actually very versatile and very much needed brush. This is great for architectural renderings to kind of block in the basic shapes of what you're seeing. It's neat to actually block in a lot of your painting with a square brush like this and then come back and refine it with more organic shapes. So I recommend trying that. But this thing comes in handy a lot more than you would think. So it's good to have basic square brush. All right, heavy brush, and I'll start introducing some color here as we go too, so it's not all boring black and white here. So this is a nice one. This has a very nice organic and a texture feel to it, and you know, the light to dark. But then as you pull off the stroke, it leaves this nice little texture. So I'll zoom up so you can see that. That's a really nice painterly brush right there. And that's generally what this set mainly includes. Is and some of these are blender brushes, so I'll have to switch to the blending figure here and go to that. So we'll go to, where was I at? Smooth Blender. So it's mainly a texture set, but I did include other things to make it a fully well-rounded set. So these are my blender brushes. This is one I use for smooth blending. So you can see it just basically will smudge up the edges beside whatever you're trying to blend, whether it be colors, whether it be just a grayscale, whatever. So this is a good brush to have, and this is just a smooth blender, so it won't leave a whole lot of artifacts to the side of it. Then you got Mr. Smudgy, which is like my favorite smudge brush, and the reason being is it'll do both. It'll actually blend smoothly if you softly press on the brush, but if you press and pull, you can pull paint wherever you want. And that's very versatile, and that's very handy for creating certain effects. So you can blend and pull paint with this one pretty well. So that's why he's been dubbed Mr. Smudgy. Dual texture brush, so now back to the paint brushes. Dual texture is just how it sounds. It's a dual brush, and it also will give you a bit of two textures in one kind of thing. It's kind of hard to use in that regard. So basically the first texture is just kind of this scratchy kind of effect, and then as you start to bear down, you'll get another shape in there. And textures like this are important to have just because it's very easy to make your paintings look boring and not have enough grit or grime to them in certain areas. So texture brushes are extremely useful, and it saves you from having to find textures and photo bash or anything like that. So that's why I have things like these dual texture brushes in here. Fluffy clouds. So this one is just how it sounds, little puffy kind of cloud effects. It's got some randomization to the brush, so it's a little bit jumpy, but it'll get you started for some generalized cloud effects, and then you just kind of play around with the light and dark, and like anything else with painting, it's an overlay process. So you just kind of keep playing around with that and mixing in your dark and lights and changing up your brush size. Again, it does have some variation, and then you also use layers to throw a bit more variation in there, and you can get some pretty decent looking clouds just with this brush. Okay, what else we got here? Texture Explosion, and you'll have to forgive me, I created so many in this set that I'll have to try them out to remember what some of them exactly are. Okay, and just like that, it looks like an exploding texture. And again, stuff like this is so important to have when painting, because you can just create so many different unique effects with it really quickly, and then add some really neat backdrop elements to your paintwork. So yeah, that's a pretty neat one. I like the artifacts that you get on the sides especially. Okay, Tribal Snake. Yeah, I don't know how much somebody would use this actually, but it's just fun to have. The things that come to mind though when you do stuff like this is, say you're doing a cool weapon for fantasy art, you could run this down the spine of the weapon, or give the weapon a spine, I should say. And so you just have to think outside of the box with abstract kind of brushes like that, but those are can be fun to have as well. Wet brush, let's see what this one is. Let's pick a different color. Again, I just want these to I want you to see them in more than one effect. Okay, so this has got a bit of a watercolor feel to it, and I like this brush a lot. It's just got a very smooth, organic flow to it. So I could see using this a lot more. And it's got a little bit of transparency, so you get that nice buildup of texture. So yeah, that's a pretty neat brush. Smooth Painter. Yep, no, same thing. It's got a nice artifact to it. It's got a nice smoothness about it, but a little bit of texture and a little bit of remnants off the edge of the pull, which is nice. So let's see, this probably looks really good as you build up over top. And again, always adjust settings as you're going too. So play with the bracket keys and the size of your brush as you go, and then also try some of these as dodge and burn brushes as well, or just pick a highlight color like this and just really play around with them. But you can probably get a lot of neat effects with just those few brushes there. Rippled Glass, this one's pretty neat. I'll pick a blue for this because it reminded me a lot of a a ripple glass effect. So I'll pick something in a bluish gray to start down here. Yeah, and just really quickly, you know, you can get a very neat kind of ripple glass effect. I'll pick a little bit lighter blue. Yeah, so that's a neat brush to have as well, I would say. But then again, I would have to say I made it. Trippy brush, I can only imagine. Okay, so again, this is more abstract, but it's nice to have some abstract stuff as well to complete the set. So there you go. That's a bit more of an abstract design element that you could place in your painting. I'll run out of canvas here real quick. And scratches, so this is just another variation of this brush, and this is just to put some scratches and dents and dings in the background. Maybe you're doing like some beat up metal, stuff like this would work really well in there. And keep in mind that to any of these effects, like you could put a small bevel and emboss on this, and it would intensify the effect as you know, with your layer properties as you go to paint with that. So keep that in mind as well. And a lot of these will look better on light against dark. Like I would use these scratches more light against dark. Abstract texture, so again another texture brush, and you know, it's really just kind of a spinning kind of texture thing. You know, I don't know how useful that one will really be, but you just kind of have to try them at different sizes and at different parts of your painting, and yeah, see, it actually looks better smaller. So I would work the brush at a smaller brush size like that, and then, you know, put it on a layer and then blend it slowly into the background, and this might yield some neat effects as well. Hairbrush A and B. All right, let's pick a hair color of some kind. Where's this brown in there? Dark brown. So yeah, you can never have too many hairbrushes, in my opinion. So what this is a little bit more of a modified version of that first hairbrush, and it just gives you more texture lines quicker, so you don't have to work so hard at developing the texture in the hair. So you do something like that, pick a lighter highlight color, whatever. You know, get in there and do some of the strands and the separations of the area. You can do this with the dodge tool as well. I do hair that way quite a bit. And let's see what the variation of the next one is. So a little more rigid of a feel to it. So I would combine the two basically. So if I get in here, I want to see a bit more texture, a bit more hard line in there. Pick a darker, come up from the bottom maybe. So yeah, you just combine the two and it gives you a bit more variation in the design of the hair, and a bit more rigidness. One's softer, one's more rigid. Okay, so stipple brushes. I make a lot of these because I like stippling in my work. It works really well for skin tone as well. So say you've got some tone in there and you want to add some that little texture you see in skin tone. This would be the brush for it right there. So, and that'll work better over the color of skin that you're trying to add texture to. All right, so let me condense some of these down so we can keep moving forward here. So you see there's a lot of brushes in this set. We're only at 27 right there. So let's see. I probably should have time-lapsed this, but I wanted to make sure to explain my thought process, if any. Not if any. There's always a thought process, but it makes it sound like I'm just mindlessly creating stuff. So here's a rock texture that I created, and you know, it can be used as a stamp. So you could just basically kind of press and wiggle the brush around and get a stamp, and then you could distort that with your distort commands, or you can paint with it. So you can just, and that's kind of what that little remnant is right there. So you just kind of brush along and keep building up the texture, and you know, this would be like the perspective that we're looking either at a flat side of a wall, or we're looking down at a barren desert, you know. So these can be fun and really great to have. And you know, for darker areas, you're going to press harder. It also has a bit of randomizing with the size, so you can toggle that on and off if you want, but I kind of like the way it is because it it overlays really well, and you get a nice variety to the look of it. So there's rock textures for you, or at least one of them. And what else? Magic Sparkles. Now this one I'll probably have to do on a dark. So let me pop this layer on and add a new layer. So this one is just kind of how it sounds. We'll pick a sparkly color, maybe yellow or something. And just as simple as that, you've got Magic Sparkles. So that's a really easy to use brush, really fun, and can make a lot of neat effects in digital painting. And you see it's already got a nice soft glow to it. You can intensify that with the layer properties, but you really don't have to. So there's Magic Sparkles for anybody that ever wanted Magic Sparkles. I guess I'll paint it over here as a dark just so you can see it. Let's try it with the blue. Yeah, so anyways, nice fun brush there. Dirt brush, so again, this is more of a texture. Just to grit things up. So you could use that, with that one, for instance. There's a lot of areas where you'll combine these brushes together to get unique effects. Puffy Smoke. So it's basically just another kind of a cloud brush, but not, more of like darker, more ominous clouds and more of a background effect of clouds, but still it could be used with the other one to combine the effects and get some really neat, dark clouds in the sky. And again, you just got to remember that you can mix those up with colors and, keep building on that effect. A little bit of dodge in there to make it look like lights peering through the parts of the clouds. Yeah, so this can be a fun one as well. All right, forgive me, I got to kind of move through this relatively quickly because there's so many. Stipple Blender. So this is another one of the blending brushes, and the beauty of this one is as it blends, it's going to give you a little bit of the texture as well. So whenever I create brushes like this, I try to think, okay, I want some that are smooth, some that will, maybe leave a little bit of texture as I do the work. So that's what the Stipple Blender does. So if you see in here, as I blended that, it left just a little bit of remnants of stippling. So that's, it's obviously in the name, it's pretty easy to understand, but that's what it is. All right, so quick foliage. Okay, so this one's kind of neat. You can, it's a dual color brush, or it's got color dynamics on it. So you can pick a light and a dark. Usually pick like a light green and a dark green, if I remember correctly. And you just kind of it's going to bounce back and forth from light to dark. So you just kind of, dab in there and you get these nice little quick foliage effects. So it's a real easy brush to use and give you some nice, I wouldn't say highly detailed foliage. It's probably stuff that's a little bit better from a distance, but it's pretty accurate. I mean, it's not bad, so from back here, it's going to be pretty convincing. So there's a foliage brush for you, because those are always handy to have. I like to paint as much of my foliage by hand, but, it's okay to cheat every now and then. All right, so dense stipple. Let's look at the darker, try blue here. So dense stipple, again, this is more of a texturing and a stippling brush. It starts heavy in the middle and then blends out. So you just have to use a real light hand if you want it to be kind of the same everywhere. Which I don't know why you would, but sometimes you do. So it's just a bit of a noise brush. And these are, again, just really handy to have so that you don't have all this smooth paintwork going on inside of your beautiful painting there. All right, paint set hard round with texture A. All right, so again, more stippling. It's got a bit of a soft edge, but not much. You can see the brush stroke pretty well in there. And then version B is where you can't see the edge so much. So it's got a softer edge to it. And, if you press down hard enough, you'll get the edge, but not as prevalent or as noticeable as the first one. So that's those. Block texture brush. Looks like a big old thing of cheese. And yeah, so this is a really neat one. It's pretty strong, and remember, you can tone things back by dropping down your opacity, or the way that I like to do it is I'll paint in full opacity and play with the layer opacity. It seems like I get a little bit more of the effect that I'm after. So yeah, if you press hard, you get kind of a neat brush stroke as well with this one. You know, if I'm pressing really hard, that's what I get. So it's kind of a fun brush, I would say. I like the feel of it. So I could see doing some rock texture painting or something with that one. Okay, so what else? Hex brush. So I want to create some geometric type stuff as well in here, just because, you know, sometimes it's fun to throw this kind of stuff in there if you're doing some kind of matrixy type thing or whatever, techie type thing. Stuff like this for the background is kind of fun. So I want to make sure to throw a couple of those in there. Made a solid and a outline version for you, so that you could really play with it and create some neat stuff. Let's see, tree bark brush. Should probably do that down here, and let's see if that will. Let's pick a brown. Okay, so this one is one that goes with the direction of the pull, and it actually works better if you have a flood color first. So let me do that first. I'll show you what I mean there. So let's take one of the solid brushes. Let's just do our square painter here, it'll be fine. And let's start with a little bit darker base. So say you got like a tree, you know, trunk or something in place, and you want to add a bit of texture to it. I'll go ahead and lock the transparent pixels real quick and find that. Where'd it go? Smooth painter, rock texture, sparkles, dirt, dense, tree bark brush right there. Okay, so then you can just basically pick, like, let's start with a lighter tone, see if that works. And you can just real quickly paint in some tree texture. So let me zoom up and show you. Because I always start light and then build up. So, you know, you could go both ways with this, go darker, you know, paint on this side over here. And you can see really quickly we've got some pretty convincing tree bark. So, and that's the other thing to remember. So when I'm showing you all these brushes, they may not look impressive by themselves until you maybe base coat something and then paint over top. So just be aware of that. Okay, crazy texture brush. Sorry, you can tell I started running out of names. Or you know what, let me just stay on the same layer, so if I gotta resize them. Okay, so again, this is a really neat kind of over impactful but cool brush for background elements and things. And just whatever, just texturizing things. This is almost like the one for when I was saying like to rough up some metal or something. I could see using this in combination with that. So if you press light enough, you get these little scratches. If you press real hard, you're gonna get these like crazy looking Rorschach tests. You know, so just play with that. That's a pretty handy one as well. Crazy eyelashes. You see, I like putting crazy in my titles. So crazy eyelashes, just how it sounds. You got to pull them just the right way, but you can get some really quick eyelash effects. And you know, I'm not saying it's only usable for eyelashes. You know, and this has got a little bit of pressure sensitivity. So if you press real light and then harder, you're going to get a bit of tonal transition and size transition. So this can be really great for abstract effects, but you know, if you just want to do some quick eyelashes, there you go. Eyelashes. Eyelashes. All right, I just like saying that. All right, so what else? Patch of grass. Let's see. I don't remember if this is a dual brush or not. No, this is, or yeah, I guess it is a little bit of a dual brush. So this is just as it sounds. You know, try to make them pretty easy to understand, obviously. Just a patch of grass. You know, and it's got a bit of a dual brush or a light to dark. Let me see. I don't see it grabbing the dark. I think it's just the transition of it. So it's going to give you a light and dark variation of the color that you pick. Just to make sure, let me grab a totally different color. Okay, yeah, it is dual brush. Okay. It seems like it would have made a darker version of that green, but whatever. So we'll grab like a light green, and then let's really darken up this green a bit more. Let's see what we get there. And let's go even further. There we go. All right, so yeah, you just got to play with it, but it's a really neat effect for creating some quick foliage and some patchy grass. Something that looks like it hasn't been mowed in years. All right, so Stakey Painter. Stakey Painter. That doesn't make sense. I'm going to have to change it. I think I messed up the name on it. So keep in mind, if you pick up this set, that will be a different name. It will not be named Stakey Painter. So anyway, this is another texture one and kind of just flim-flamming around, but that can provide some pretty cool effects as well. So that's another effect brush or another background texture. Yeah, I actually like that. Obviously I made it, so. Watercolor splash. Let's create some more real estate here. Running out of space. Okay, so let's pick something in a light blue here. Yeah, so this one's pretty neat. It's got a bit of a translucency to it. Nice soft. It's got a little bit of artifacting for the edges. So brushes like this can be really fun to paint with. Feels a lot like a traditional watercolor, which I think is what Photoshop was aiming for with all the edge effects that they added. So that's a pretty fun one right there. So great for watercolor. And rough dry brush. Okay, so these are nice too for really roughing things up and doing border effects or whatever. So what's cool about this is that it follows the direction that you pull the brush, and it's got a nice artifact effect to the edges. So even when you pull off the brush, it's got a little bit of tapering, but if you press harder, you're going to get the solid part of the brush, and it's just a really neat kind of dry brush effect. So this one's fun, and like I said, it's really great for borders. So if you were to like hold shift, there you go. You got a quick spooky border in no time. So there you go. And what else? Quick mountains. This is just a stamp that I did for you real quick. Oh, that's a little bit big. Where you at? There. Size the sucker down. So all it is a stamp of mountains. Just a kind of a shape and some quick texturing that I did. So that's just a starting point for you. You can copy those on the layer. And that's the way I'd recommend doing it, because the brushes, when you add details like that, won't come through as a solid. Or if they do, and I haven't been able to figure out how to do it yet. So if you paint like this, you're going to get, it's going to bleed over and blend over to itself. So this one's just meant to be a stamp. So you create a layer, stamp it, create another layer, stamp it, and you'll do a solid fill behind or in between each one of them, or erase beside it, or whatever you want to do. But that'll give you an effect to do some quick mountains. And then, paint over top, because you don't want to obviously just use that brush the way that it is every time, when you could make it better. Just this will get you started, and you can use it from there. So I'm going to include stamps like that in certain brush packs that I do, just because I think it's cool and fun to do, and why not, So alright, so stars, I'll need the black background again. Add a layer, and just like they sound, stars, which really you could use the sparkles one, but this is just like if you wanted, you were doing like a solar system or something, and you just wanted all the stars in the background. You didn't want to meticulously paint them in by hand, which would just drive you nuts. So you got a really quick and easy star brush. And it's got variation. If you notice, it's twisting and moving around. If you size up the brush and just kind of dab it here and there, you get those few larger stars that you see. So that's a really, quick and easy way to create stars for your effects. So there's that. And let's see, Swirling Ribbon. This is actually pretty neat. It's just a black brush, but it does this really nice kind of ribbon effect. Again, it's more abstract, but there's times when things like this can come in really handy. You know, if you're trying to, well, for instance, you're trying to do a swirling banner ribbon effect. This is a pretty quick and easy way to get started. And then you just ad-lib and keep painting in from there. But brushes like this are pretty handy and fun to have. And finally, the chisel brush. So this is more the hand way to create rocky formations and things. So a great thing about a brush like this is you can quickly block in a shape. It's got some texture to it. So we'll just say that you got this rock formation like this. Something, some little stuff at the bottom. Size your brush up and down, whatever. And then switch from dark to light. I'll get a little bit more dark in here. So just because it's got that little sliver to it, you can do nice little details off to the side. You can get those little flat spots that you see in a lot of rocks, and kind of cut to the side and down, and again, it's got that texture in there, so you're able to kind of combine that as well, that with the way that you paint and draw this stuff. So yeah, so really quick, easy way to kind of draw in, rocky type stuff. So there's that. So that is the brush pack in all its glory. So hopefully you find some use for this, and if you check it out, let me know. Comment in the description box below. Let me know what you think, what you'd like to see in the future. I'll be making updates to these brushes, and they'll be included in the brush pack. So by jumping on board and getting it, any future updates, either modifications to the brushes you see here or new brushes that are added, will be free of charge, and it'll just be considered a workflow update. So yeah, so let me know what you think, and then as always, keep drawing, keep having fun, and I will talk to you soon. Bye for now.